So here I'm back with another story from Ruskin Bond. The name of the story is Would Astley Return? The house was called Undercliff because that's where it stood, under a cliff. The man who went away, the owner of the house, was Robert Astley. And the man who stayed behind, the old family retainer, was Prem Bahadur. Astley had gone many years. He was still a bachelor in his late 30s when he had suddenly decided that he wanted adventure, romance, faraway places, and he had given the keys of the house to Prem Bahadur, who had served the family for 30 years and had set off on his travels. Sometimes someone saw him in Sri Lanka. He had been heard of in Burma, around the ruby mines in Mogok. Then he turned up in Java, seeking a passage through the Sunda Straits. After that, the trail petered out. Years passed. The house in the hill station remained empty, but Prem Bahadur was still there, living in an outhouse. Every day he opened up Undercliff, dusted the furniture in all the rooms, made sure that the bed sheets and the pillowcases were clean, and set out Ashley's dressing gown and slippers. In the old days, whenever Ashley had come home after a journey or a long tramp in the hills, he had liked to bathe and change into his gown and slippers, no matter what the hour was. Prem Bahadur still kept them ready. He was convinced that Robert would return one day. Robert himself had said so. Keep everything ready for me, Prem, old chap. I may be back after a year or 2 years or even longer, but I will be back. I promise you. On the first of every month, I want you to go to my lawyer, Mr. Kapoor. He will give you his salary and any money that's needed for the rates and repairs. I want you to keep the house tip top. Will you bring back a wife, Sahib? Lord, no. Whatever put that idea into your head? I thought, perhaps because you wanted the house kept ready. Ready for me, Prem. I don't want to come home and find the old place falling down. And so Prem had taken care of the house, although there was no news from Astley. What had happened to him? The mystery provided a talking point whenever local people met on the mall. And in the bazaar, the shopkeepers missed Astley because he was a man who spent freely. His relatives still believed him to be alive. Only a few months back, a brother had turned up. A brother who had a farm in Canada and could not stay in India for long. He had deposited a further sum with the lawyer and told Prem to carry on as before. The salary provided Prem with his few needs. Moreover, he was convinced that Robert would return. Another man might have neglected the house and grounds, but not Prem Bahadur. He had a genuine regard for the absent owner. Prem was much older, now almost 60 and none too strong, suffering from pleurisy and other chest troubles. But he remembered Robert as both a boy and a young man. They had been together on numerous hunting and fishing trips in the mountains. They had slept out under the stars, bathed in icy mountain streams, and eaten from the same cooking pot. Once, when crossing a small river, they had been swept downstream by a flash flood, a wall of water that came thundering down the gorges without any warning during the rainy season. Together, they had struggled back to safety. Back in the hill station, Ashley told everyone that Prem had saved his life, while Prem was equally insistent that he owed his life to Robert. This year, the monsoon had begun early and ended late. It dragged on through most of September, and Prem Bahadur's cough grew worse and his breathing more difficult. He lay on his charpai on the veranda, staring out at the garden, which was beginning to get out of hand. A tangle of dahlias, snake lilies, and convolvulus. The sun finally came out. The wind shifted from southwest to the northwest and swept the clouds away. Prem Bahadur had shifted his charpai into the garden and was lying in the sun, puffing at a small hookah when he saw Robert Ashley at the gate. He tried to get up, but his legs would not oblige him. The hookah slipped from his hand. Ashley came walking down the garden path and stopped in front of the old retainer, smiling down at him. He did not look a day older than when Prem Bahadur had last seen him. So you have come at last, said Prem. I told you I'd return. It has been many, many years, but you have not changed. Nor have you, old chap. I have grown old and sick and feeble. You'll be fine now. That's why I've come. I'll open the house, said Prem, and this time he found himself getting up quite easily. It isn't necessary, said Astley. But all is ready for you. I know. I have heard of how well you have looked after everything. Come then, let's take a last look round. We cannot stay, you know. Prem was a little mystified, but he opened the front door and took Robert through the drawing room and up the stairs to the bedroom. Robert saw the dressing gown and the slippers, and he placed his hand gently on the old man's shoulder. When they returned downstairs and emerged into the sunlight, Prem was surprised to see himself, or rather his skinny body, stretched out on the charpai. The hookah lay on the ground where it had fallen. Prem looked at Ashley in bewilderment. But who's that lying there? It was you. Only the husk now, the empty shell. This is the real you, standing here beside me. You came for me? I couldn't come until you were ready. As for me, I had left my shell a long time ago. But you were determined to hang on, keeping the house together. Are you ready now? And the house? Others will live in it, but come, it's time to go fishing. Ashley took Prem by the arm and they walked through the dappled sunlight under the deodars and finally left that place forever. I hope you liked the story. Long live Ruskin. Thank you.